Several cars are involved. Looks like we might be one of the Ferraris.
The Formula One World Championship has so far been the story of two men. Niki Lauda and James Hunt side by side.
Welcome to Rush.
An incredible battle between these two great drivers.
That's the name of the movie, written by Peter Morgan, that I'm directing, that is based on primarily the 1976 season and the remarkable rivalry between James Hunt and Niki Lauda.
That wind you can feel is me breathing down your neck. Next time I'll have you.
It was epic. It was dramatic, dangerous, terrifying.
I accept every time I get in my car. There's 20% chance I could die.
And of course, it's set in the 70s, a very sexy, fascinating period in global history. And I really believe that using today's cinematic technology, we can make something that really cuts through to audiences, feels fresh, rewarding, and exciting. That's the way I feel every day as I'm coming to work. Excited. It's one of those rare opportunities, and I hope you really enjoy Rush when you see it.
He's coming into the home stretch now. He's going to finish the race.
The closer you are to death, the more alive you feel. It's a wonderful way to live. It's the only way to drive.
We meet James in around the 1974-75 period when he's racing the F3 cars, and then the film tracks right up until the end of the 1976 season, which is where the final, rivalry comes to a great dramatic head with Niki Lauda and James Hunt, and so you see quite a transition of sort of who these guys are as drivers, but also in their personality. You know, they're sort of the peaks and troughs of who they are through that period. It's quite interesting. They're pretty much opposites, the two of them. You know, Niki is very much of the intellectual mind, and there's a calculation and risk assessment for the way he approaches racing, and whereas James is, he's an artist, if you will, from the gut, and it's kind of head down and foot down and go for it. And I spoke to one of his teammates, James's teammates, and he said he recalls a conversation he had with James one time where he said, "God, James, those first two laps of the race, you were all over the place, And James, she said, I can never remember the first two laps. Like, it's like he's that much adrenaline going, and we get into that in the film with, him sort of throwing up before races, and he even says himself that he used to work himself into a heightened state of tension because he believed that was where his best performance came from.
There's a lie that all drivers tell themselves. Death is something that happens to other people. And that's how you find the courage to get in the car in the first place. But more powerful than fear itself is the will to win.
Who's that?
It's Niki Lauda. He's just been signed by Ferrari.
Showdown between you and Niki is all anyone wants to see.
Why don't they make it safer?
The risk of death turns people on.
Well, I was sent the script, and my first reaction was a bit of fear, because I thought, how could I possibly play Niki Lauda? It's a guy who's so different to me, and he's still very present in Germany because we see him every weekend as he commands the Formula One. We still see him around, so and I thought, whoa, that's a tough part, So the good thing is that I went to the audition with that feeling, that I won't get it anyways because I'm too different than Niki. But I always had a passion for cars. I loved the script. I loved the part, of course. So yeah, I was eager to get the part, but I really didn't expect it. So yeah, it was quite a surprise that Ron decided then so quickly after a couple of days. Normally it's a torture. You have to wait for 2 weeks or 3 weeks and you don't hear anything. Start calling your agency, making pressure, still nothing. And then in this case it was after a couple of days that my English agent called me and said that Ron offered me the part. We are very different as actors. We come from completely different directions. I have the highest respect for the work that he does because it's so physical. He plays all these superheroes. That's tough and it's a lot of work. And I come from another direction, and so to me that rivalry was always totally believable. But also that journey that ends with them being almost friends. And that worked out perfectly with Chris. We shared a good sense of humor, laughed a lot, teased each other permanently, and it's had a very good feeling. The focus is really on that dramatic season in '76 with the crash, with Nicky's crash, and yes, on the rivalry between him and James Hunt.
Peter Morgan approached me with the idea to make a movie out of that particular year, and he asked me if I could help him to tell him basically what happened and then give him the background of his knowledge about that season. The season where I started well off being world champion the year before, so I ran into the season with a perfect car, Ferrari, very competitive. I won most of the races before the Nürburgring accident happened. And suddenly I was caught nearly dead, missed the races, was fighting for my life to stay alive. And then I decided 5 weeks later to try it again, which was tough.
From a casting standpoint, this was one of the easiest films I've ever had in terms of it just all coming together. You know, Chris Hemsworth won the role with this fantastic audition. I didn't know that much. I'd seen him in Thor. You know, I saw his great cameo in Star Trek. I'd met him. I liked him. I had no idea if he could be James Hunt, and he convinced, you know, myself and everyone involved with a tape that he made while he was on location doing Avengers, and it was, you know, it was remarkable. And there was nothing more than watch it and then say, you know, please. You know, sign that guy for this role, please.
Hey!